So it turns out that there's 1,440 minutes in a day. And this show just takes 8. That's 0.5% of your day to stay informed. No stress, no scrolling, just everything you need to know. What a time to be alive. My friends, in today's show, Starlink tables a 2 billion rand plan to anchor itself in SA. Violent teenage brawls break out in Cape Town malls. Yes, you heard that right. And MultiChoice bets big on betting. Let's get into it. And kicking us off with current affairs, yesterday we covered the DA's fury after Ramaphosa axed their deputy trade minister over some travel protocol breach from a few months back. But what has started off as a political slap has now spiraled into a full-blown standoff. So in response, Steenhuisen has pulled the DA out of the national dialogue and threatened to table a motion of no confidence against Ramaphosa himself. The president's office is calling his defiance insubordination, and the ANC Secretary General has threatened if that motion lands, the DA is out of the GNU. So look, this coalition has already survived its fair share of internal tensions, but this is arguably the sharpest breakdown yet between South Africa's two biggest parties. And if this fallout deepens, budgets could stall, power could shift, and Parliament could end up paralyzed. It is shaping up to be a very big week. And next up, the first rule of Fight Club, you don't talk about Fight Club. But the second rule is that you don't do it at Canal Walk, or the waterfront for that matter. But this hasn't stopped Cape Town malls from turning into holiday fight zones, with recent viral videos showing teens brawling, swinging belts, and in one case, waving a girl's wig like a lasso. So in response, the V&A and Canal Walk have both ramped up on security after chaotic scenes broke out over the weekend. Some fights started inside food courts, others spilled out into parking lots, and in most cases, no one's been arrested. Police say that they are aware of the incidents, but victims need to lay charges first. Malls are urging adults to accompany teens during these school holidays and warning that anyone caught fighting will be reported to SAPS. I obviously couldn't include any of the videos in the show for obvious reasons, but they're out there and they're brutal. And onto our quickfire mentions, Tshwane's new cleansing levy kicks in today. The 149 rand monthly charge for residents even using private waste collectors. AfriForum is challenging it in court, but for now the extra fee is on everyone's bill. And the higher education minister is under fire from student groups, political parties, and even analysts, all calling for her dismissal after a string of botched appointments, misleading statements, and mounting corruption allegations. And onto our finance section. Starlink is quietly rolling out a massive 2 billion rand investment plan to turn South Africa into its ground control hub for the entire SADC region. The picture is that Starlink will fund local infrastructure, rent out space in South Africa data centers, and partner with local fiber providers to connect thousands of rural schools, hospitals, and police stations without having to give up 30% ownership under BEE laws. This is all supposedly as part of a workaround plan known as equity equivalent investment that government now seems to be open to approving. Now look, this is the clearest sign yet that Starlink wants in, and they're banking on public pressure and political will to override South Africa's strict BEE laws. But the final call here rests with the regulators, with approval processes that could reportedly take up to 2 years. And that delay could cost them. I mean, Amazon's Kappa and China's Thousand Sales are building these rival satellite networks, and they're moving fast to try and lock down the same markets that Starlink is still negotiating. And onto our quickfire mentions, Exxaro is warning of lower core production and exports this half year, blaming weak Eskom demand, rail disruptions, and falling global prices. Domestic sales are up, but export volumes could drop by as much as 10%. Business confidence among commercial property brokers took a knock in Q2, falling to 40% from 55%. This drop reportedly reflects rising unease over sluggish growth, coalition instability, and jittery investor sentiments across key sectors. And Christo Visa's Invicta posted a 14% rise in headline earnings per share, helped by a one-off 222 million rand property sale in Singapore and a UK acquisition in the agricultural machinery space. news. And on to our sports section. At just 20 years old, Potgieter sank a 18-foot birdie on the 5th playoff hole to win the Rocket Classic, becoming the youngest South African ever to win on the PGA Tour. And look, it wasn't smooth. He opened with 2 bogeys, missed 2 early chances to close it out, and still held his nerve in an hour-long playoff shootout. The final moment though, cool, clinical, and clean, while his American opponents cracked. Now keep in mind, this was only his 20th PGA event. He has now beaten players with decades more experience and proven he can deliver under pressure. The win also marks a turning point after years of family sacrifice, including international moves and long stretches away from home. He isn't just another rising prospect anymore. He is now eligible for bigger purses, major invites, and a full PGA exemption. From here on out, he's not just chasing his dream, he's officially living it. How cool is that? And on to our quick fire mentions. Springbok coach Rassie Erasmus says that the next 3 tests, 2 against Italy and 1 against Georgia, will be used to build a 45 to 50 man match fit squad ahead of the Rugby Championship in August. Wimbledon begins this week with a major change. For the first time in its 148-year history, there will be no line judges. The tournament's gone fully electronic, following the trend set by the US and the Australian Open. And a new Australia-New Zealand combined side will take on the British and Irish Lions next month, with 4 All Blacks already confirmed, including Shannon Frizzell and the Crusaders captain David Havili. And before we continue, here is your Bagel Bite of the day. Which province do you think generated the highest gambling revenue in South Africa in the 2024 financial year? Was it A, Gauteng, B, the Western Cape, or C, KZN? We'll give you the answer at the end of the show. And on to our wildcard section. With DStv subscriber numbers sliding and streaming eating into margins, MultiChoice is bleeding viewers. But ask any South African, the only thing keeping them hooked is SuperSport. We all love our sport, but it turns out the only thing that we might love just as much as watching it is betting on it. Now, according to the Outlier, South Africans wagered over 1 trillion rand last year, and 2/3 of that went to sports and horse racing. And a recent survey showed that nearly half of all bettors say that they're gambling more than they were a year ago, and most of it is happening online. So in response, MultiChoice launched SuperSport Bet. And according to the latest earnings report, the new platform is gaining traction fast, especially in South Africa and Nigeria. Revenues are climbing, user activity is up, and they're gearing to add casino games next. So yeah, SuperSport may just be the last thing holding DStv together. And so MultiChoice's thinking is actually pretty simple. If you can't grow your viewers, monetize their bets. And as for that Bagel Bite, the answer is Gauteng by a country mile. According to the 2024 National Gambling Statistics Report, the province brought in 12.5 billion rand in total gambling revenue, including 8.5 billion rand from casinos and 2.7 billion rand from betting. Interestingly enough though, Gauteng's casino sector remains the country's largest, but nationally, betting actually brings in more revenue than casinos. My friends, that's it for today's show. I hope you guys all have a cracker Tuesday. And just remember, you never know what someone else is going through. So go easy out there and make someone else's day if you can. I'll catch you guys all tomorrow. Cheers.